Oh, welcome. I am going to pretty much very briefly explain something that I think usually goes unnoticed. But if you didn't already know this, every time you go out and you actually acquire you see how this works, right? You go up and upgrade your decorations, you get stats. Then you might be wondering, well, hold on a minute, how do I get the luminary shadow? How do I do that? Okay, relax. It's just over here, okay? So you go to the command center, and when you unlock this, you're going to acquire the wonderful little boxes they call the Labyrinth Treasure. And inside the Labyrinth Treasure, guess what? That's where the luminary shadow is from. And of course, you go through and you basically rinse, repeat and you can try and retry, up to 5 times. So, you may hit it, you may not hit it, but you might as well try because basically what you're going to do is you're going to get lucky once in a while and you're going to get yourself some loot. Well, in that case, I'm obviously not getting any further. So be it. If we go over to the challenge for the Dark Forge, same premise, same deal, just basically go through the stages and go ahead and get as far down the stages as you can. Again, the nice thing about this is that if you don't win, you don't win, and that's just the way it goes. Like, there's not really a whole lot you can do in this beyond, just basically taking whatever you can get. And so once you've gotten there, eventually you can acquire those chests, and then you can turn around and you can use, well, if you ask me anyway, what you do is you save your gemstones and you just pick up mithril. I don't bother using the extra gemstones for speeds or anything else. I stack my gemstone is what I do. I think that's a better use of gemstone. If there was an actual use of gemstone, that's the use. But more or less, once you've actually gotten around to actually doing that and upgrading your decorations on your dock and going in and actually upgrading your city, I bet the only other piece of advice I would have is obviously you're, in the middle of what I would describe as, kind of a quasi upgrade event for fire crystals. So if you ever happen to run into crystal reactivation and you're wondering, like, is this worth the money and the expense and the effort that it goes into? Obviously, from a financial perspective, this is one of those things that, yeah, out of all the opportunities you're going to get, you're not going to get very many opportunities to buy fire crystal chests, and fire crystal chests are kind of a bargain for what you get. But to get, like, say, 500 of these, you're also looking at $50, and that's a 1 to $1 ratio that, when compared to, like, say if I look at like buying those at $5 a pop and I was to go over and actually grab them straight off the shop, even. This is something I think a lot of people do, or I hope they don't, but they might be doing, is they'll buy at $5 a pop, they'll get 15, which is to say that, well, basically for what amounts to 15 fire crystal, you've spent $5. Okay, and it to me, it seems a little bit of a Looney Tune type thing to be doing that, but there are people out there that do it, I guess, because they're trying to rush their fire crystal level. But when you look at crystal reactivation, again, it's not the only way to get fire crystals. I've shown you how to get them free to play. I mean, like I've always told you, all you need to do is just go to the world map and do your intel missions. And literally, you're going to get fire crystals passively just by doing your missions. I mean, that's really all you got to do. You don't have to get too crazy about spending by any means, right? It's not something you have to absolutely do. But one of the things you want to keep in mind is always what event is currently going on. Like right now, there's State of Power, but Symphony of Change is basically the motivating event that kind of ties into this. And this is where you can get a lot of fire crystals free and you don't really have to spend, but obviously if you're going to spend, and this is, I think, kind of where I'm kind of alluding to here, okay, is if I'm going to spend, is this actually worth it? That's what you want to know, right? And out of all of these, I would say, you're looking at basically the logistics of, do you go for the full 500, get 650? Well, at 15 at $5, right? I mean, this game is always scaled in terms of the more money you spend, the more value you get. So for every dollar you spend, you're better off buying it up in bulk at $100 bills than you are at $5 a pop. And it's always going to be that way. But on the same token, it also doesn't make sense to be the guy that when you compare $50 to this, right? If I had spent 400, I'm also getting 400 times 60. And you look at that and you go, well, hold on a minute. that fire crystal count's only a little bit higher. So for what amounts to almost 100, which in this aspect is like the difference between $10 basically, I'm really only going to be increasing the number of chests I have by about 12. And you're looking at 650 to 260, so you're really only looking at what amounts to around 520 crystals to 650, so you've only increased the number of fire crystals for $10, more or less. You've only really gone up 130 crystals for 10 bucks. And you've increased the number of chests you have by 12. So for an extra $10, that's not like god awful. Plus, you've also got, extra meat on top of that, so you've got kind of a resource argument. But more than anything, it's the VIP points, XP here, that I think a lot of people will pick those up, and that's kind of the motivating factor behind it, because the guy that isn't already on VIP 12 is going to be really wishing he was at VIP 12, because the benefits of getting there is pretty much, once you're at VIP 12, then you can sit here and pretty much accept the 6, shards you get a day and the books, and you're pretty much set. You no longer need to worry about mythic shards and books. I mean, those have pretty much, they're for life. You are set. And then everything else that comes with it, like, yeah, your core bonus and stats are all there. And obviously, if you wanted to spend, a little bit of extra capital, then, all the power to you. You get the little extra added bonuses on top of that. Should you want to go out and actually go any crazy bonkers, but in a perfect world, like that's about where you get to, but it takes a pretty substantial amount of capital to VIP 12 too. It's not like you can just walk up and spend a few $100. That's more like a couple $1,000s. So most people will probably never see it, unless of course they play over time, and that's the thing. It's kind of like one of those things you build up to. The main thing, though, is like if you pick up the labyrinth treasures here, you might hit it, you might not. Splendid labyrinth treasure, though, you'll see that the odds go up quite a bit, where you have a little tiny percent chance of getting it on that. Here you're at 3%, so the likelihood that you actually do hit it is a lot higher. So like there, I got 3 of them. And I honestly think it's one of those chests that you're probably better off, at least in my thinking anyway, to stack these chests as you continuously build up, and then probably open them in bunches of 100. And that way you're really getting the most for your buck, because you're running the odds basically every time. But without a doubt, guys, that is pretty much the gist I had for today. I just thought I'd go ahead and point it out as far as Labyrinth is concerned. Thank you guys for watching.